Hey guys, how are you? Well, the other day I installed this TV, and as you can see, there's a wire hanging down going to the outlet. I can't stand that. If you look at any of my other TVs in my house or ones I install for people, I always add an outlet up behind the TV because I can't stand having wires hanging down. Today I'm going to show you how to do that. All right? By the way, my name is Andy. This is Before You Call a Contractor. Welcome to the channel. All right, so the first thing we got to do is take the TV down. For the sake of this video, I've already undone the nuts that hold this TV on the bracket. I'm going to unplug it and lift it off. So, as you can see, there's an outlet down here. We got our TV bracket up here. The idea is we want to use this outlet, tap onto it, and bring an outlet and put it up here. I typically put them above the TV bracket because I find that there's more room above than below usually when you hang your TV. But it's your preference. You put it wherever you want. I just want to make sure it's behind the TV. I'm going to show you how to do that. All right, so the first thing we got to do is turn off power to this. I'm going to use my circuit chaser to do that. You don't need to use a circuit chaser. You can just go to your panel and try to figure out which one it is. I happen to have a circuit chaser, and it's easier for me to use it. So you saw I plugged something into the outlet. So you go to your circuit breaker panel with the circuit chaser, turn this on. And what you do is you just want to touch each breaker as you go up. And don't worry if it beeps the first time around. Just ignore it and go up one side and down the other. Then go do it again. This time when it beeps, that's going to be the breaker you turn off. So there's a little LED light right here in the circuit chaser, and it's not on, so we know that outlet no longer has power going to it. Plus the lights are out in the room, so you know there's no power in here. So before you attempt to do this, let's talk about the tools that you need to do this. You're going to need basically a couple screwdrivers, wire cutters. You will need wire nuts. This is a 15 amp circuit, so you need 14 gauge wire, 14-2. What that means is get 14 gauge wire. There's 2 wires in there. There's actually 3. There's a ground wire. They don't count those. If this was a 20 amp circuit, we'd want to use 12 gauge wire. Okay. Simple things. Sheetrock saw. You can use a vibrating tool. You can use a sheetrock knife if you want, but I always use sheetrock saw. It's easy enough for me to use. Need an outlet cover, torpedo level, pencil, and there's your outlet cover. Now, what we need to do, we got to figure out what side our stud is on, because this is going to be nailed to a stud, okay? And by the way, the kind of box you want to buy, you want a box that says old work. This will be a new work box. See, it's got nails, and you can nail to the stud. These are used before sheetrock goes on. This is an old work. And what it does is these open up inside the wall and they hold your box up against the sheetrock. So that's the kind of box you need. Now for this outlet, I happen to know the stud is on this side. So I know my other outlet is going to go over here. You've got basically 16 inches from here to here. You can do it up there. Okay? Let's go ahead and get to work on that. All right, so remove our outlet cover. And we've got to loosen up our outlet. Okay, and I say you need to know which side your stud is on because you certainly don't want to put it over here because up there somewhere you'd have to drill through this stud, and that's going to be very difficult to do. The other thing is, this is an inside wall, so I know I don't have any insulation in this wall. If you're doing this on an outside wall, you're going to have to fight with that insulation to get the wire through, but it can be done. One other issue you could possibly run into is sometimes, depending on how the house is built, there's blocking in the wall, which means it's going from this 2x4 to this 2x4. To do that, you would have to find a way to drill up through it. You could use a long drill bit, you could use a right angle drill, but I've run into it a couple times. I've done both. I've used a right angle drill with a 12-inch drill bit, or I've got a 48-inch drill bit that I've done it with too. So first things first, let's cut out for our electrical box. Like I said, I'm going to put mine on this side, right about here. When you're doing this, it definitely helps to have a torpedo level. Put this flush against the wall. Put your level on it. Once it's level, just draw an outline of the box. There, there. By the way, when you do that outline, you want to go through here. You don't want to go above this, because this part, you need there's that part of the sheetrock to stay on there so the box has something to rest against. Take a real close look. You can see how I did that. All right. So, again, you can cut this out many different ways. I'm literally just going to use the sheetrock saw. And I'm going to punch in. By the way, if that falls in the wall, no big deal, but I usually don't do that. Check and make sure our box fits. Our box fits perfect. We're not going to install our box yet, though. I'm going to hold off on that just yet. All right, so we're going to come down here, and we are going to undo all of our wires from the outlet. You can use a flathead or a Phillips. I like a Phillips myself. All right, now, I like to spend a little bit of time. We're going to need these wires that were bent around the screws, we're going to need them straight. So, I'm going to spend a little bit of time cleaning up our wires. Getting everything straight. All right. Now for this box, both of my wires are coming in from the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this wire and clean it. I'm going to snake it through the same hole as one of them. It doesn't matter which one. You can go in front or in back. I'm going to go in back. And I'm going to just push this wire up the wall. As far as I think I need it. All right, guys. So now we need to get our wires put together. No, black's going to go with black, white's going to go with white, and the ground ones will go with the ground. So it makes it a lot easier if your wires are all the same length. So we got these three wires, the two that were coming in originally, the third one that we got going to our new outlet, and we need this fourth one to go to the outlet that was here. So you get them all lined up together. Then take some pliers. I use needle nose pliers. And twist them together. You want all this bare wire all wrapped around together. Get it twisted real nice, like that. Now, If you got one wire that's sticking out longer, just go ahead and cut it off. Okay? Wire nut. Since there's 4 wires here, it's going to require bigger wire nuts than what you might normally have. So you got to use the right size wire nut. Do not just put electrical tape on there and say it's good enough. That is not good enough. You must have a wire nut. Okay? Once your wire nut's on there, there should be no bare wire sticking out behind this wire nut. Okay? If you want, you can actually put electrical tape around this for extra precaution. I don't usually do that, but there's nothing wrong with doing that. So now we're going to do the same thing for our white wires. All right. Now that we got our black wires and our white wires all put together, we need to do our ground wire. Now, ground wire, you could essentially use a wire nut and wire them together, but the proper way is to use what's known as a bonding strap. These are cheap, and they come like a pack of 50. What I usually do is I put it over the original ground wire, ground wire, and I slide the other ground wire through it. The further back you slide it, the better. I usually slide it all the way back to where there's going to be another bonding strap that's already on there. Once that's on there, you squeeze it. And you're squeezing those ground wires together. And that's what's going to get them to stay in contact. Now, I got 2 wires here. I got 2 wires here. I don't need both of them. So I go back to the bonding strap. Make sure you don't cut your other wires, and I cut this off, and I don't need it, okay? Now we got to reinstall our outlet. I like to take the time to tuck my wires in as neatly as possible. I believe everything should try to be as neatly as possible. Okay, now I'm going to pre-bend my wire. And I also like to bend it in the direction that I'm going to be tightening up the screw. Now you're going to see on the outlet you got a copper and you got a silver. Copper color is always black. Silver is always white. Doesn't matter which one you put it on. Get it on there and tighten it down as tight as you can get it. Okay, now I always like tighten down the other screw too, even though there's nothing on it. I tighten out because the less sticking out to me, the better. I'm going to do the same thing for the white. And put that other screw in. And bend our ground wire. Reattach our ground wire. Now when you put this back in here, make sure you're tucking your ground wire in. You do not want your ground wire touching either of these, the white or the black. You don't want that at all. Get it lined up. All right, put our outlet cover back on. Let's go do our outlet at the top. All right, so on our electrical box, we're gonna have to punch out one of these right here. I usually do it with a screwdriver. A little flathead screwdriver, just put it in there and pop it back. That way you can slide your wire through there. The other thing I like to do is I want to see how much wire I actually need. I certainly don't need this much wire hanging out. So, put this up here. I'm going to say I want my wire to stick out about that far. And I'm going to cut it off. Now I also need to take off my wire, weather stripping. I'm going to go to about here. That. Pull it off. Get rid of all this. Okay. Now, we can put our wires through our box. And you want to pull it just so the sheathing is just inside the box. All right, right there. Now, we can install our box in the wall. We'll push that in there. And these little wings need to be tucked in there. Okay. And there we go. Tighten them down. All right. Now we can strip our wire. Let's pre-bend them. And attach them to our outlet. Same thing goes, black to gold. Tighten it down. As tight as you can get. And guys, you'll notice I don't have any wire sticking out past the screw. All right, let's do the other side. All right, let's feed our wires into the box. I tend to go back and forth so I'm not getting the outlet all sideways going in there, try to get going straight. Right before I snug it up, I try to make sure the outlet is perfectly straight inside these slots because it can move around a little bit. All right, we install our outlet cover. All right, let's go turn the power on and check our circuit. All right, so this is an outlet tester. Very darn expensive either. Put in your outlet, 2 yellow lights, means your circuit's good. By the way, I always check the new one, but I always check the old one that I just reinstalled as well. And I got yellow lights on both of them, so they're good to go. Now I can plug my TV in behind there and I don't have to keep looking at the wire hanging down. Guys, I hope you found this video useful. And again, I want to thank all of our military, our veterans, our first responders for everything they do for us. Guys, have a great day and thank you.